Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, Real Gerald Quinn, on this 10th of September, 2024. Of course, we are recording this as the presidential debate is taking place. I think it will start at 9 o'clock. So by the time you hear this podcast, the debate will have already taken place. So just to keep that in mind. This is not the season 17 premiere. I'm going to actually push that back to the actual date that our podcast began 17 years ago, October 8th, 2008. So that falls and that falls on a Tuesday, which is our record date, which is going to be my record date more times than not over the course of the NFL season. So I'm actually pushing back the season 17 premiere to October 8th, 2000, October 8th. So that's basically less than a month, basically a month from today. We're going to begin with the NFL with a couple of stories that I'm sure the NFL is not thrilled about, but we'll have to deal with anyway. Number one, Tyreek Hill. Of course, Tyreek Hill made the news by being detained by police officers right before the game when Miami was hosting Jacksonville, a game that they would win. He was detained before the game, handcuffed. He was handcuffed, taken to the ground, surrounded by 5 cops. He was stopped for speeding, given 2 citations for speeding and riding without seatbelt. Now again, he was dragged out of his car. He was handcuffed, face down on the sidewalk. He was kicked by one of the officers. And I think the guy who kicked him, this is probably the guy who kicked him, is Officer Danny Torres, a 27-year veteran officer, has been placed on administrative leave. This was something, I watched the body footage. First of all, I mean, the Miami Police Department, Miami-Dade County Police Department don't have a leg to stand on. They tried to throw out a narrative yesterday that he was not being compliant. He was simply pissed off that the police were turned something small, made something that should have been taken all of 5 minutes into this whole ordeal that could have turned ugly, if not deadly. We've seen those situations go left quickly, and a lot of times it ends on the other end of a beating or a bullet for a black man or a black woman. This situation should not have taken. This should have been a 5-minute situation. You pull him over, sir. You're going beyond the speed limit. License, registration. You run the rest. You run it. He has no warrants. Cool. Write him a ticket. Keep it moving. Like it really was that simple. This was not algebra as far as policing should have goes, or as far as this is a regular traffic. This is a generic traffic stop. Like this, we've seen this thousands of times. People get pulled over all the time for speeding. And again, it wasn't like he was doing 150 miles an hour where he was. But they try to hype it up like he puts people in imminent danger. No, he was not driving. He was over the speed limit, but it was not like ridiculously out of control where he was about to cause an accident and what have you. No, it wasn't that deep. It really wasn't. And you had officers, and this is the one thing about police officers. We see these types of cops. These insecure cops who are full of themselves or who are scared or just scared in general, shouldn't even be cops in the first place. Instead of de-escalating something, they always pour gasoline on the fire. We saw it with the lady a few weeks ago getting shot in her own place with a pot of water. And again, it always gets to a point, and she clearly had mental health issues, but this was a situation that shouldn't even take in de-escalation. I mean, this was a routine traffic stop of a guy speeding. This was absolutely routine, and it turned into basically treating Tyreek Hill as if he were some type of criminal mastermind that had a warrant out on him. And I want to say Tyreek Hill, there's been kind of like this idea that the fact that because he's Tyreek Hill that saved his life. I honestly don't think that was the case. Like, I honestly don't think that the fact that he was a famous athlete or a famous or one of the top receivers in football. I just think that he was blessed and it wasn't his time. I don't think these officers gave two shits about the fact that he was Tyreek Hill. And even when the officers mentioned him, one of the officers mentioned, you know who that is, but it wasn't like, hey, you know that. They didn't say, hey, you know who that is, and then take the handcuffs off and like, say and ask him for an autograph. It wasn't like it wasn't a change of demeanor or attitude. They just, one officer just basically said to the other, you know who that is. Then, yeah, there was a question of why is he sitting down? He never should have been taken out of his car. Never. He never. I mean, it's one thing to be asked to roll your window down. He never should have been taken out of his car. Never. That never should have. Absolutely never should have happened. And again, we've seen the situation, seen this movie play, this movie 1,000 times with cops and black men and black women. Here's the thing. To me, I wonder about. I know what the pieces of shit cops are. I know what this system is. This is a system that has been going. This has been going on since cops, were slave patrol way back when. It's been going on in every major city. You go look at the history of the LAPD, and it's they ravaged through black communities and how they did treatment of African Americans. Like, this has been an ongoing story. There are some perceived good cops out there. Right, we know who the pieces of shits are. In essence, they stand out. What doesn't get reported enough, and again, the only thing that's going to change this, let's be clear about this, is legislation. You gotta hold politicians accountable to eventually push them to get rid of qualified immunity. With qualified immunity, of course, we know allows the police officers to basically do whatever the hell they want without little to any recourse or little to any no actions, like no consequences. Like, they have basically a green light to beat the hell out of you or even possibly kill you. We've seen cops who killed people, who killed the victim, black men and women, not be held accountable to the fullest of extent. We've seen cops get fired and end up on another force. Those guys kind of tend to bounce around a lot. So this has to change from a legislative standpoint through voting and through action on our parts as the people holding our politicians, state, local, accountable. What can move the needle to me immediately is if these perceived good cops held the bad apples accountable. And to me, again, it's hard to say what is a good cop in 2024. Like, if you just because you're not doing some illegal shit, just because you're not beating the shit out of black men or women, abusing power, that doesn't necessarily, to me, make you a good cop. To be honest with you, and I'm at the point right now. Even if you are a pillar of the community, you are somebody who's respected, who's in touch with the community, you are somebody who's genuinely trying to do the right thing. You're genuinely out there trying to save lives and trying to protect people, even if that's in your heart. You can't tell me that you're a good cop if you see another cop doing what Danny Torres was doing, or even worse. You can't without stopping them or without trying to prevent it. How many times have we seen this type of stuff situation happen, and you have 5 cops. One is completely showing their asses, and the other 4 are just complicit with their thumb up their asses, looking stupid. Those are the cops that, we talk about. Again, the bad apples will always stand out. The horrible people will always stand out. The guys that, Chauvin, Derek Chauvin, and what have you, those guys, that guy always will stand out. it's the people, it's the ones that are allowed that just sit there and watch those type of cops that are complicit in that, that are a huge problem to begin. There are also a huge problem with the police force, and with policing as a whole. And why are, like, again, they should be held accountable. Those cops have to be held accountable for that, for just standing there and just allowing your partner or partners to completely abuse their power. And again, we've seen situations where you'll see black cops allowing a white cop to abuse a black man. Like, shit happens all the time. It absolutely happens all the time. But again, this situation easily preventable. Easy preventable. Yes, he was speeding, write him a ticket, keep it moving. Again, luckily I've only been pulled over once in my life. I've been in a car a few times when the driver was pulled over a couple of times, but once in my life I was pulled over for well, it wasn't not a busted tail light, but the light in the tail light didn't work. So the light it was a shortage of a tail light or what have you. A Latino officer pulled me over. Sir, license, registration, boom, boom, boom. Cool. Came back, like, didn't even write me a ticket. I didn't even write me a ticket. It's like, just get, make sure you get that taken care of. Enjoy your evening. It took about it didn't even take maybe 10 minutes, maybe between 5 to 10 minutes. Just, just like that. It was routine, tail light, speeding, no aggression, nothing. Just, hey, officer, yes, that's officer. Boom, boom. This is like 2007-ish. Yeah, 2006, 2007. So again, this type of situation was more than preventable. It was more than preventable. And I think, to me, the cops, the cops who are just complicit and just are sitting there and are not, and who don't get, again, the cops that are complicit in it, who are not the aggressors, they don't get the attention versus someone who actually pulled the trigger or abused or was over excessive with their force. In terms of brutality, just flat out brutality, beatings and what have you, they don't get that attention. That cop will get national attention, talked about, or look at his background. We don't talk enough about the cops who stand there and do nothing. And that is a major off a system that needs to be destroyed in terms of policing in this country. Just like these police forces that we know are infiltrated with white nationalists, with Klan members, with it's like the biggest gang, and the biggest gang in this country is the police force. That's all there is to it. That's the gang that people need to worry about. Forget about gangs and Bloods and Crips and what have you. No, the biggest gang is the police force. There's the LAPD, New York PD, whoever is Chicago PD, whatever you want to call it. Those are the biggest ones. The police forces around these countries, around this nation. Those are the biggest and most dangerous gangs in this United States by far, because they have there's no accountability, no recourse, and it's the way the government is growing right now. You have police. Basically, the politicians are in the pocket. The politicians are scared to death to say anything remotely negative, for the most part, about policing in a real way and call it out in a real way. They'll touch upon it. They'll touch about it, but they don't. You heard Joe Biden. We need more police. No, we don't need more police. Better training. No, it's not better training. That's not it either. The number one thing number one thing that can move the needle is accountability. Accountability for us, holding politicians accountable for pushing for pushing for different police, or for pushing for to end qualified immunity. also accountability for other officers who just stand there while they watch the piece of shit be a piece of shit. Deshaun Watson, the Cleveland quarterback, is facing a 27th sexual assault charge. All these sexual assault allegations, sexual assault allegation. This will be 27, 25 of them have taken place. These incidents have taken place in the year 2020. The young lady, Jane Doe, this took place in Texas back in 2020. They're more than troubling. It's when you read the story, tough to read the story. Again, this is alleged. Watson, he comes in her house, asked for a massage. Apparently, he was butt naked, turned over, and according to the young lady, he partially disrobed the Jane Doe. Jane Doe penetrated her vagina without consent. She is someone, again, statute of limitations in Texas is 5 years. She was someone that spoke about being just terrified to say anything out of watching what his lawyers had done to previous victims. Keep this in mind: 23 of the 26 allegations of sexual assault have been settled out of court. You have 2 that are pending. 1 is about to be dropped. So, I think Watson basically thought this was over before this happened, but it's not. And there's a situation where, Cleveland, Watson was horrible in the game against the Cowboys. I know both the tackles were missing. No Nick Chubb. So didn't have, he didn't come in, he didn't enter that game fully with his full offensive team. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league, but he was awful in that game. I mean, the defense. The defense actually didn't play as poorly as it looked. They gave up a couple of drives, but for the most part, the defense was decent. But offensively, the Cleveland was horrible, and to beat Deshaun Watson, that jumped out in that game. How bad he looked. And I'm telling you right now, you look at his contract. Watson has $123 million left on his contract. There's a clause if he is suspended by a league to where they could void his contract. First part is, again, this was a guy, and me and Rob Sapp said this when he was signed back in 2021, excuse me. There's no way in the world that I would have had him anywhere near my football team with all those allegations. It's just 26 at the time. It was 26 allegations. There's zero chance. It's again, we know how talented he is. He was a great player at Clemson. Won a championship. Was obviously had a great start to his career with the Houston Texans. Pro Bowls and what have you, and it was on his way to being a flat out superstar and a top player in this league. Since he's been with Cleveland, he's either been hurt, suspended, or just hasn't gotten the job done. They showed some numbers on Sunday where the guys that have been in place for him, the production has either been close to his or even exceeded his. During his tenure with the Browns. Again, he has a $230 million fully guaranteed contract. Before Dak Prescott signed his deal on Sunday, this was the most money guaranteed at signing in the history of in the NFL history. Remember, his was complete, all it was guaranteed, all of it. So Cleveland went all in on Deshaun Watson after the trade, after everything would transpire with Houston. They went all in on this guy who had all these allegations, and now they're frankly paying the price, and they're frankly, in a sense, getting what they deserved because they took the talent over the character. I'm one who doesn't try to make snap judgments when it comes to cases like these. And you've heard me say alleged about 10 times during this segment. because I want to see all the evidence. I want to let things play out. But the bottom line is 26 people or 27 now are not lying. Okay, 27, there's 27 women, maybe a couple of them might have been lying, maybe, but not all 27 of them are lying. That's just not, I just don't, never, ever, I just won't believe it. And Cleveland, absolutely, the Browns are absolutely getting what they deserved in regards to Deshaun Watson. I hope it's not true for the sake of the victim. I hope it's not true at all. But so, I mean, you know, his history and the fact that he settled, like, again, no denial. He settled 23 of those cases. So there was something happened. If you're settling, we knocked Diddy a few months back for settling with settling with Cassidy. Same thing here. If I'm innocent, if I'm completely innocent, I'm not settling any. I'm not. No, I will fight to my last. I will use my last dime to fight for my name. Like, if I didn't do it, there's no way I'm selling it into something that I did not do. There's zero chance that would ever happen. So Cleveland is in a very peculiar spot here. Again, his play. Again, we'll see. How this plays out. If the league does take any action to suspend him, he's not a big star. He's not playing well, so it's not like there's motivation by either the Browns or the league to keep this guy for him to be in the league. Like, if Deshaun Watson got suspended, was cut, and never played football again, everybody, he probably would get another chance. If he doesn't, he probably would get another chance with the quarterback with the quarterback situation, the NFL being a bunch of the haves versus the have-nots. He will get another shot. But if he were never to play football again, based off this allegation when he got suspended, like, the NFL will not in the least bit miss Deshaun Watson. So that's what I'm saying. This is not a superstar talent here. And the Cleveland Browns are not going to. They probably, if you gave them the truth serum, probably want to get off that contract. Again, we're talking $123 million owed to him. Excuse me. No, that number's wrong. We're talking $92 million owed to him in the next 2 years. So look at the contract right now. So yeah, 46, 1.2. And this is base salary. As far as cap hit, even is worse. His cap hit this year is not that bad. Like $29 million, $27 million, $28 million. That's like below market average for the average starting quarterback. That's close. I mean, that's close. That's basically market, probably close to the average for, that's not a big number at all. But 2025 is the cap hit was $72 million. 2026, it would be $72 million. So we will see how this plays out. This is, again, Cleveland gave up everything for this guy, signed him to, again, at the time, a historical contract, and he's been a bust so far as a Brown. Been a bust. Like, look at his numbers in this game again. Down 2 tackles. Keep that in mind. But he was 0 for 10 on passes, 15 yards. 0 for 4 on passes, 20 yards. 3 for 12 throwing under pressure. 2 for 9, 13 yards. 2 for 9 for 13 yards and 3 sacks when he was blitzed. So, and remember, Cleveland gave up 6 draft picks, 3 first rounders for Deshaun Watson. And basically, it helped set up the it helped catapult, Houston to the position they're in right now. something with those picks. But it's going to, it'll be a waiting game from the standpoint of we'll see how quickly the NFL acts on this. In regards to this, we'll see how quickly the NFL acts on this as this thing unfolds. We transition to the game of the week. Last year, it was one of the best games in the entire playoffs, and it did not disappoint in this particular game. On Sunday night, Detroit getting by the Rams 27-20. Again, a very, very good game. Give the Rams a lot of credit. Down at 1 point, 17-3. They looked dead in the water. They were like all over Matthew Stafford. Like the offensive line. Stafford was great in this game. His offensive line was banged up. They were out there getting guys off the street to come in. And he, goes 34, 49, 317, helped spearhead the comeback. Played, like I said, played as well as you could possibly play, considering he was under siege. Aiden Hudson was just all over the place. It was just a man amongst boys. Aiden Hutchinson was all over. And I mean, all over the place. His, again, the numbers don't even tell you. He had 4 quarterback hits, which is a high number, and 1 sack. But that doesn't even tell you the pressures, the hurries. He was simply just everywhere. As he could be he could be an under the radar candidate for, really not under the radar. He could be a candidate for defensive player of the year, possibly, if he takes another leap. But it was Detroit's running attack that was the difference. They go for 31 for 163 yards, offsetting what was an okay performance by Jared Goff. Jared Goff wasn't very good, wasn't bad, but he was just okay. And they, behind that great offensive line, which is probably the best in football, 31 carries, 63 yards. Again, if you're the Rams on the road, I know it's in conference, but non-divisional on the road, it's not, if there's such thing as a good loss. Now, a great loss would be if you lost non-conference to where it didn't count against your conference record. But this was not a bad. This was the Rams. The Rams, I think, will be a playoff team. A lot of young talent. The most important thing to come out this game was Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp had a injury-ravaged season last year. He was not the same player that he was a couple of years ago when he was breaking all types of records back in, I believe, the Super Bowl year, 2021. That year, 14 catches, 110 yards, 21 targets. He looked like the Cooper Kupp, the All-Pro Cooper Kupp that we had grown to see a couple of years ago. That was the most important thing to come out of that, of that game. Again, both these teams, I think, will be in the playoffs. Detroit, again, I have Detroit in the AFC Championship, and I have the Rams in the playoffs. The Rams will be, like I said, the Rams are a very, very tough and just well coached team. So, fun game. Again, did not disappoint. Completely lived up to the billing. Our fave for the week. Let's go over to Brazil, not Brazil, but let's go. Well, it was Brazil. Let's go to Philadelphia and Green Bay. Green Bay. Whatever, getting by Green Bay in 34-29 in Sao Paulo. This game was played on a Friday night. Good game. Both these teams have a lot left to be desired from a standpoint of offensively. Both these teams basically went up and down the field. You had a situation where there was a 30-point second quarter. Neither quarterback played great. They both ran the ball. Both teams ran the ball extremely well. Obviously, Saquon Barkley had a big game. 109 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, including a touchdown catch. Everybody's going crazy about him. See if he can, if he can stay healthy. But again, both these teams have defensively, both these teams were leaking like a sieve. Offensively, I mean, like I said, offensively, the offense is basically, if not for the turnovers, I mean, there would have been more points for both these teams. Philly gets off to they had an interception and, a fumble and interception before you can even sit down. And both these teams had over 400 yards of offense. Again, Philly controlled the clock from that standpoint. Well, not controlled the clock, but had the ball 32 minutes. But the difference was, of course, the red zone where Green Bay was 1 for 4. That was what lost him the game. Again, hard to get. Obviously, the big story out of this game is the fact that Jordan Love was injured on the last play. Now, again, with the sprained MCL, would not be out the extended period of time. It's not, it's not. They dodged a bullet from the standpoint of it being any major damage. So he's going to be out a couple of weeks, probably close to a month. Was not put on the IR. Was not put on the injured reserve list. I found curious. So maybe maybe he comes back quicker than expected. But both these teams are going to score a lot of points, but also give up a lot of points. I expect Green Bay's defense to be a little bit better than it was, especially than it was. But they have a lot. Again, only one game. I don't want to go crazy about them on only one game. But if either one of these teams wants to be taken serious as a Super Bowl contender, they definitely going to play defensively. Bills get by Arizona 34-28. You have a situation where it was the Josh Allen show. He threw the ball all over the place. He threw the ball, completed almost 8% of his passes, 18-23, 232, no interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Threw the ball well, ran the ball, was responsible for 4 touchdowns. Kyler Murray was okay. 21-31, 162 is nothing home to nothing to go crazy about. Listen, Buffalo down 17-3 at one point in this game. When Buffalo runs the football, they're a different team. Like their identity as an offense, and this is going back to last year. This is when we go back to 2 years ago. Buffalo has been successful. It's with the pass rush and it's with their running game. Now again, Josh Allen can still be Josh Allen, and Buffalo still be able to run the football effectively. It seems to me when Buffalo will get themselves in trouble offensively with a lack of identity. We've been saying that for a couple of years now. It would be because it would be too much Josh Allen and just basically no semblance outside of Josh Allen of a running game. That was not the case in this game. James Cook goes for 19 carries, 71 yards. That is the type of production that you want out of your lead running back if you're the Buffalo Bills. And even though it's only less than 4 yards a carry, that's still production. That still keeps Josh Allen relatively healthy, and Josh Allen can still is enough to set up some play action. Josh, and by the way, in contrast to what I'm going to talk about with Lamar Jackson, not Josh Allen, 9 carries, 39 yards, 2 touchdowns. I will live with 9 carries. 9 carries is at that borderline. It's probably the perfect. It's probably at where I want Josh Allen. Don't want him in double digits. Don't want my quarterback. I don't care how. I don't care the fact that he's 6'5", 240, whatever. I understand he's a physical specimen, one of the best running quarterbacks in the league. Again, those hits eventually catch up to you. So, from that standpoint, if you're Buffalo, you take the win. Arizona, on the road, non-conference, not the worst loss. They certainly had a chance to, made it a game. Made it a game in the fourth quarter, but Buffalo gets the opening home win. Houston and Indianapolis. This is going to be one of the better quarterback rivalries in the conference for sure. Houston gets by. Houston gets by Indianapolis on the road 29-27 in the division. Listen, obviously the story was the new faces from Houston, Mixon and Diggs having big games. Mixon goes to 160 yards on 30 carries, and great, just a great job out of them to balance their offense and not put everything on C.J. Stroud. The big story to me out this game was Anthony Richardson. Richardson was out last year with the injury. The guy, I didn't know about Richardson coming out of college like that because Florida right now is absolutely in the tank. They were in the tank even when he was there. As talented as he was, they still were not somebody to be taken seriously. So he comes out. He's one of these guys who you just say is a can't miss talent-wise, but we don't know about the other parts of his game. A lot of raw physical, just a lot of sheer raw athletic physical talent, and it was absolutely on the display. Now again, only 9 for 19, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Had six rushes for 56 yards. This guy, he just looking at him, the eye test tells me that this guy, like, he could be like Josh Allen. Like, he could be another version of Josh Allen. That is the type of physical arm talent that he does have. Like, he has that type of physical arm talent. And he only ran the ball 6 times. Ran the ball 6 times, which is fine. Had the touchdown. He looked comfortable in the pocket. He looked like a guy who, he looks as comfortable as guys who have been in the league 4 or 5 years in the pocket, who are guys who have the ability to run the football. Yeah, he was strictly looking to run the football. And it's just a matter to me, I think his inaccuracy wasn't a matter of 6'4", 244 pounds. I don't think his inaccuracy was a matter of he's not an accurate quarterback. I just think it was a matter of just he hasn't had a lot of reps, college or pro for that matter. This guy is the real deal. He's absolutely, just as the eye test tells me that this guy is going to be a major player in this league. That's what the eye test told me. And again, I was not a believer coming off him. He didn't play last year, but even him being drafted as high as he got drafted, all the talk about him, I was like, didn't see enough in college. Now I saw on Sunday what people were talking about and why Indianapolis is so high on him. Jacksonville, Miami kind of overshadowed, of course, by what transpired with Tyreek Hill. Dolphins down 17-3 at one point. You come back to get the 20-17 win. Important that the Dolphins don't have to score 40 points to win the game. They kind of win it with their defense. Tyreek Hill, despite what transpired before the game, was able to 7 catches for 130 yards, including the touchdown. Had an 80-yard touchdown catch. This was a troubling loss for Jacksonville. And I'll tell you why. Again, I don't get I didn't get into seasons over and stuff like that. The reason why it was troubling, similar to Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence just didn't look good. Like, Trevor Lawrence looked 12 of 21, 162 yards. He just signed, and again, they had to give him the money. Just signed a massive extension, massive deal. Fine, you have no problem with. He's a franchise quarterback, but he did not look good. Did not look comfortable at all. And Lawrence now, this is he's drafted in 2021. This is year 4. This is a big year for Trevor Lawrence. And again, I've been on the Trevor Lawrence bandwagon. I fully believe. Now, I haven't been on this. He's generational talent, and he's going to be set the league on fire. I'd say I believe in Trevor Lawrence could be a franchise quarterback and a guy who you could potentially if everything is right, possibly win a Super Bowl with. But like you look at his first 4 years, excellent year 2022. Last year took a step back with the 14 interceptions. Again, this year is a big year. This is a year where he should take a leap, like a major leap. Your fourth season. Um, he's been relatively healthy, so it's not a matter of him missing time to where he hasn't got enough reps. He's got the reps. So I mean, he's played in like possibly almost. He's only missed like 3 or 4, like 3 games in his career. Coming into week one, he had only missed. In fact, he only missed 1 game his entire career, 1 start. So he's been durable. Okay, that's fine. That's cute. That's great. No, seriously, that's great to be durable. But at a certain point, like you got, he's got, he got to take that leap. He has to take. I mean, and this guy, he signed. He's making $55 million a year. So you're paying him like a top flight quarterback. He's got what? Many playoff appearance? A couple, one playoff appearance. Hold on. He has two playoff. Okay, no, 1 playoff appearance, 2 playoff games. They won one, lost one. So 1 playoff appearance in 3 seasons. Which again, I'm not gonna go too crazy with about that standpoint. They were rebuilding the franchise. So I'm not like saying that you can't build around him, but he's on it. Like he signed. When you signed that contract, and we had this conversation about Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love in last week's podcast. It changes the whole dynamic of your franchise. Things speed up, and the room for error is smaller. So, like you come into this year, his best season is 21 touchdowns. Like his best season coming into this season, his best season is 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in 2022. I believe 66 passes, 4,000 yards. Yeah, very good season. Very good. Not even close to being good enough for what they need out of him, considering the contract that he just signed. Not even close to being good enough. Very good, but not need him to be great. I would have to pay him the same paintbrush I painted Jalen Hurts. He has to be dominant for that team to compete at a high level. Dominant. Pure and simple. He won the week. Without question, Dak Prescott. Now I could have put Northern Illinois, who took out Notre Dame. They were in contention. They were in conversation too. But Dak Prescott won the week because he, in the game of him versus Jerry Jones in the game of chicken, he won and it wasn't even close. Signs a contract, $240 million, 4 years. The important numbers are, of course, the $231 million, which is the most guaranteed, the most total money guaranteed in NFL history, exceeds Deshaun Watson by $1 million. Total guaranteed, the number one all time in signing bonus of $80 million, and again total guaranteed $231 million. Now for Dallas, his cap hit this year, as I look at his contract, it's not crazy. Like his cap hit is not out of control. When you look at it and pull up his contract right now, he will. He will make. His cap hit this year is $43 million. That's not. I mean, that's a big number, but it's not a number where it's not crazy. It's not out of whack. Next year it gets interesting because at 30, again, the age is not. He's in his prime versus his age for his age. The cap hit to next year is $89 million. Then 89, 68, and 62. So that next year could be. It's going to be some. I don't know how much he would be willing to restructure, considering that he just signed it. He's come up as a team player, but you still got Michael Parsons, and they just signed CeeDee Lamb. They just signed, Trayvon Diggs has the big contract, or that the other cornerback, they just signed the other corner or the other safety, not the corner, the other safety to a record deal. So they've committed a ton of money to to a handful of players on their team, and again Dak played well against Cleveland, but I'll tell you what, Dak is going to have to play at the level that he played at last year and beyond in the playoffs to justify the money that he got. Again, Jerry had no other choice in essence but to give him that money. Those of you want to say Dak is not worth that money, well, who's playing quarterback for you? Jerry Jones is in win now mode. That team, like most NFL teams, are built to win now. It's not even about young talent and things of that nature. NFL teams are not built around just all youth, all youth movement. He was the only option. They had no other options at quarterback, especially when Trey Lance just completely fell off the wagon last year. They thought Trey Lance, and don't think Jerry Jones wasn't thinking like this. Jerry Jones had to pay Dak Prescott. Like Jerry Jones was kind of like the position Obama was in back in July. Really didn't want to endorse Kamala, but had no choice with what transpired with the momentum of that Sunday and Monday and that whole week in general. They had no choice. Wasn't crazy about it, but had no choice. Jerry Jones, similar position, absolutely had no choice but to pay Dak Prescott. Zero had no choice. If Dak Prescott hit the free agent market as an outright free agent, he'd be picked up in 3 seconds. Somebody would pay him like an insane amount of money. There's so many teams that could use a quarterback that could use that. Again, the gap between the quarterback has versus the quarterback have nots in the NFL, to me, has never been higher. It's never been higher. So Dak Prescott, again, life is timing, and his timing to be a very good, not so much even great quarterback, but being a very good quarterback will get you insane amounts of money in the NFL. That's just the way it is right now. And Jerry Jones was talking all this, that, and the third during the offseason, so on and so on. He had to ante up, and he knows he had to ante up. And he waited till, again, you wondered about the timing. It wasn't that, it was one of those things where it was just Jerry knowing that he had to pay and was going to not hold out to the last minute. Basically, just it was Jerry almost admitting him taking the L. Like he had no other choice, and like I said, that contract could have been done weeks. Contract could probably get done months ago. That was just Jerry Jones stewing at the fact that he had to pay this guy a record amount of money. And he knew he had no choice but to pay this guy a record amount of money. It was a disappointment without question to me was the New York Jets. New York Jets go out there. Now, I also could have had Notre Dame football as well, so they were in the conversation. But the New York Jets go out there. You go out there with no Christian McCaffrey on San Francisco. Again, I know the game was on the road. You get all this hubbub about Aaron Rodgers being back, all this defensive talent they have. Sauce Gardner, the Quinn and Williams. Which they do. They have a ton of defensive talent. A revamped offensive line, the whole bit, and they go out there and get their asses absolutely handed to them by the 49ers. So again, playing without their best offensive player. Just inexcusable, not so much for the loss, because that's, Kyle Shanahan is Kyle Shanahan. He's one of the best play callers and one of the best. Like, he can hide, he can hot for a game, he could come up with a scheme that makes these running backs that allows that empowers his running backs to go out there and have a big game. That's exactly what it's exactly what Mason went out there and did. He goes Jordan Mason, 28 carries for 147 yards. San Francisco ends up running 38 carries, and he wanted that in 38 carries for 180 yards versus the Jets, 68 yards. Rodgers was average, if that. I mean, you can even say borderline mediocre. Didn't crack 200 yards. Purdy, efficient, no mistakes, no turnovers. Wasn't great, but also didn't allow the running game to do his job. And San Francisco absolutely handed the Jets their asses. Like, they dominated that game from basically, outside the first quarter. From outside the first quarter, it was all San Francisco. And again, the Jets. I didn't take the Jets. The Jets were my team. I had them as the most overrated team in the AFC, maybe one of the most overrated teams in the NFL. Period. I have no faith in the Jets. Again, you want to say again, San Francisco is a top flight team. We understand that they're a team that almost won the Super Bowl. That's been a perennial contender for like that part of the last 4 to 5 years. I get how good San Francisco is, but if the Jets wanted me to take them serious, they had to go out there, especially Christian McCaffrey. They would have to go out there and either beat San Francisco or they'll come down there close. And they look like a team that's not even in San Francisco's class. And I don't want to hear about the Jet defense when you allow someone to run for 180 yards. Don't want to hear about Jet defense. And think about it. San Francisco's receivers were not setting the world on fire. Like, their leading receiver was Jawan Jennings, 64 yards. None of the receivers had touchdowns. Debo, again, 5 for 54. George Kittle was 4 for 40, and more importantly, the new multimillionaire Brandon Ayuk, who just got this big contract, was 2 for 28, including was only targeted 5 times, including getting whipped by Peyton Manning. Which, by the way, Peyton Manning, calm down. The guy was negotiating to get his contract, and this is why training camp. He was, if he's negotiating to get a training camp and holding out, I'm not gonna knock a guy for getting his money. Like, take it easy. Like, I mean, we get it, Trent. We get it. Hey, you never missed a meeting. You were in every off-season program. I understand. Peyton Manning's all-time great, without question, one top 5 quarterbacks of all time. But this was Brandon Ayuk was trying to get his money. Like, Brandon, this would be the biggest contract for Brandon Ayuk's career. I'm not going to in a sport where your career could be over in one play, and where majority of the money is not guaranteed, where you get to a certain level to where you can have the majority of your money guaranteed. Ayuk is at that level. I'm not knocking him, but missing training camp. Now, listen, he got to go out there, but he has to go out there and perform. But I don't, he clearly dropped. He dropped a touchdown. We understand it. Dropped a touchdown, but Peyton Manning was a little bit extra with the criticism. But again, this was, when you're making the type of money he is making now, and you play a game like that, you're gonna get criticized. But I just thought Peyton Manning, bringing up the training camp was a little bit extra. It wasn't over the top, but just a bit extra. But overall, again, the Jets. I told you about the Jets, and I have zero faith in the Jets. Buffalo and Miami are both, to me, I would take over the Jets in that division. The Jets just do way too much talking. There's too much stuff around them, and even come to the uniforms. It's too much around the Jets with Aaron Rodgers. I don't see the leadership. Robert Saleh got his ass handed to him in terms of coaching wise by Kyle Shanahan. He got coached like Shanahan, there's no way without Christian McCaffrey that their running back should be able to run for 180 yards. It just shouldn't happen. And Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. Again, to everybody doesn't age like Tom Brady or even Drew Drew Brees, and even Drew Brees, his drop off was, it came quick. It normally, when guys fall off, especially at the quarterback position, minus Tom Brady, it normally happens, and it normally happens fast. So I think Rodgers is cooked. He's like not a guy who, again, I think that can elevate a team, and they have a lot of talent, but they don't have the type of talent that can compensate for Aaron Rodgers not being a at worst Pro Bowl caliber quarterback, or they're not all pro. Finally, with real thoughts, of course, James Earl Jones passes away at the age of 93. We're talking about 60 years, 60 years in the business of theater, TV, and film. He was an actor's actor. There was no shortcuts with him whatsoever in terms of the steps that he took to get to where he was at. And there always was kind of like, I always looked at him, of course, with probably the best, one of the best voices that in the history of entertainment. Like Michael Buffer, you see guy like one of the best voices. Not in terms of actors, putting singers aside, but just you talk about a voice, that a distinguished voice, and when you hear that voice, who that is, one of the most famous voices ever. Like literally one of the most. You think about his voice and hearing his voice. That is one of the most famous voices in the history of movies and of Hollywood. It really is. And, him as Darth Vader, in The Lion King and what have you. This guy worked his ass off. Like he worked. There was no bullshit with James Earl Jones. There was no just getting caught up in being a celebrity and no. This guy was an actor. If you wanted to learn how to become an actor, this was a guy who you follow in terms of the steps, in terms of just being this guy was about the work. Here, it's about the work. It was about nothing else. And you stay in. He had a great quote. Put up this quote that he had. Was more had, and again, constantly worked. He was in 80 films. Okay, 80 films. He's in. Again, you're talking about 60 years of work, 80 films. That doesn't include the television work, the theater work that he did. Was always working. 70 television credits. So 80 films and 70 television credits. I mean, again, some landmark shows, L.A. Law, great shows, Homicide, Law and Order, of course. Picket Fences was an excellent show back in the day. Frasier. Here's the quote. I just found it. The secret is never forgetting that you're a journeyman actor, and that nothing is your final thing. Nothing is your greatest thing. Nothing is your worst thing. Jones said, I still consider myself a novice. Nothing is your greatest thing. Nothing is your worst thing. And, we joked about Notre Dame just missing the cut as far as biggest disappointment. They go out there and have this great win against Texas A&M week 1 or week 0 week 1 in Texas in one of the toughest places, Kyle Field, one of the toughest places to stay in all college football. Then they go out there and land complete A at home against Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois is just unbelievable, just unbelievable. But I mentioned that just handling prosperity. And James Earl Jones again. He to be at that level and to be relevant for 60 years. Think about his career. He had a 60-year career. It's pretty remarkable. And when you are revered by the likes of every actor, black or white, I heard Bryan Cranston say great things about him. Denzel Washington said, I wanted to be him. And again, I just respect someone who studies the craft to the highest degree and did every aspect of acting that you can do. Like I said, Broadway, television, and film, and lived a full and complete life. 93 years. All of us will take 93 years on this earth. So rest in peace to the great, great James Earl Jones. It's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your week. So long.